My name is Amanda, 35 years old, and I never imagined having to bury my husband, Jason, at such a young age. My world collapsed around me that Tuesday morning when his heart suddenly stopped. Through tears, I called my parents, desperate for support. Their response? They were too busy at my sister Grace's birthday party to come. They had no idea that weeks later they would be standing in my living room demanding half of Jason's inheritance. But they also never expected what my 8-year-old daughter Lily had planned for them. If you are watching this now, please let me know where you are from in the comments. Hit like and subscribe to support my channel. As my husband always said, family shows up when it matters most. Jason and I were college sweethearts. We met during freshman orientation at Boston University. I was studying architecture and he was pursuing finance. Our first conversation happened over spilled coffee in the campus cafe. I knocked over his cup while rushing to class, ruining his economics textbook. Instead of being angry, he laughed and said it was the universe's way of forcing him to actually read the chapters instead of just skimming them. That was Jason for you. Always finding the silver lining, always turning mishaps into opportunities. We dated throughout college, moved in together after graduation, and married at 25 after he secured his position at an investment firm. 10 beautiful years together, building a life brick by brick. Our daughter Lily came along 2 years into our marriage. From the moment she was born, Jason was smitten. He would rush home from work to spend time with her, reading bedtime stories with different voices for each character, teaching her to ride a bike in our driveway, patiently answering her endless questions about how the world worked. Lily inherited his analytical mind and my creativity, a combination that made her wise beyond her 8 years. Jason built a successful career as an investment banker. He worked long hours but always made time for us. His careful financial planning meant we lived comfortably in our colonial-style home in Newton, a beautiful suburb just outside Boston. We were not extravagantly wealthy, but we had everything we needed and could afford nice vacations, Lily's ballet lessons, and savings for her college education. Then there was my family. My parents, Harold and Diana, always made it clear that my younger sister Grace was their priority. When we were growing up, Grace got the newer clothes, the bigger bedroom, more attention at school events. My accomplishments were acknowledged with polite nods, while hers were celebrated with parties and gifts. I spent years trying to earn their approval. I got straight A's in school, graduated with honors from college, secured a good job at an architectural firm, married a wonderful man, and gave them their first grandchild. None of it seemed to matter. At family gatherings, my parents would rave about Grace landing a client or getting a promotion at her marketing job, while my promotion to senior architect barely warranted a mention. Jason was my emotional anchor through all of this. He saw the pattern from our first Christmas together when my parents gave Grace an expensive watch and me a generic bath set. He never pushed me to cut ties with them, but helped me establish healthier boundaries. He would remind me that I was worthy of love just as I was, that I did not need to earn my parents' approval. Just 3 months before Jason died, we attended my parents' anniversary dinner. Grace announced she had been promoted to marketing director at her firm. My parents popped champagne and toasted to her success. That same week, I had completed a design for a new community center that had been featured in Architectural Digest. When I mentioned it, my mother said, "That is nice, dear," and immediately turned the conversation back to Grace. In the car ride home, I broke down crying. Jason held my hand across the console and said, "Your parents are missing out on knowing the amazing woman you are. That is their loss, not yours. We are your family now, Amanda. Lily and I see you, all of you, and we think you are extraordinary." Jason had been experiencing some health issues in the weeks before his death. Occasional chest pain, shortness of breath during his morning jog, unusual fatigue. We both dismissed it as stress from a big merger he was working on. He promised to schedule a checkup once the deal closed. That appointment never happened. The day before he died was unseasonably warm for April in Massachusetts. We took Lily to Walden Pond for a picnic. Jason taught her to skip stones across the water, and we took turns reading chapters from Harry Potter under an old oak tree. Before we left, Jason took a photo of Lily and me with the sun setting behind us. He looked at the picture and said, "This is what happiness looks like. This is what matters." How could I have known those would be among his last words to me? How could I have known that perfect day would be our last? As a complete family, the universe gave us no warning, no chance to prepare, no opportunity for proper goodbyes. The morning Jason died started like any other Tuesday. Our alarm went off at 6:30. Jason kissed my forehead before heading to the shower while I went downstairs to start breakfast. Lily was already up practicing her spelling words at the kitchen table. I made Jason his favorite breakfast smoothie with spinach and protein powder. We were laughing about Lily's science project, a model of the solar system where she had painted Jupiter with glitter because, as she explained, even planets should sparkle. Then came the thud from upstairs. At first, I thought Jason had dropped something. When I called out and got no response, a cold dread washed over me. I ran upstairs to find him collapsed on the bathroom floor, the shower still running. He was unresponsive, his lips turning blue. I screamed for Lily to bring my phone and started CPR, desperately pushing on his chest, as I had learned in a community class years ago. Those minutes waiting for the ambulance were the longest of my life. I kept performing CPR, begging Jason to breathe, to open his eyes, to stay with me. Lily stood in the doorway, frozen in terror, watching her mother try to bring her father back to life. The paramedics arrived and took over using a defibrillator, injecting medications, working with practiced efficiency. One of them gently pulled me away while another led Lily downstairs. They transported Jason to Massachusetts General Hospital with sirens blaring. I followed in our car with Lily running red lights, hands shaking so badly I could barely steer. In the emergency waiting room, a kind nurse brought Lily a stuffed bear and some juice. I paced the floor, praying to a God I was not sure I believed in bargaining for Jason's life. When the doctor finally approached me, his face told me everything before he spoke a word. Time of death, 8:22 a.m. Massive heart attack caused by an undiagnosed congenital heart condition. Nothing could have been done, even if he had been in the hospital when it happened. Words that were meant to comfort, but cut like knives instead. The doctor asked about organ donation, about funeral homes, about who could come stay with me. Questions I could not process. My husband, my Jason, my partner, and best friend for the past 15 years was gone. Just gone. 40 minutes ago, we were laughing about glittery planets. Now I was a widow at 35. Telling Lily was the hardest thing I have ever done. I sat her down in a private family room at the hospital, held her small hands in mine, and told her that Daddy's heart had stopped working and the doctors could not fix it. That he had died and he would not be coming home with us. That he loved her more than anything in the world and would never have chosen to leave her. Daddy promised to come to my recital next week, she said, her voice small and confused. He promised to help me with my science project. My heart shattered all over again. I pulled her into my arms and we cried together. This tiny person and I both suddenly missing the most important man in our lives. The hospital gave me Jason's personal effects in a plastic bag, his wedding ring, his watch, his wallet with our family photo inside, his phone with 67 unread work emails. I clutched these items to my chest as if they could somehow bring him back. Reality hit me in waves. In the hospital parking lot, I realized Jason would never drive our car again. At home, I found his coffee mug still on the counter where he had left it that morning, his running shoes by the door, his indent on his side of the bed. Each discovery sent me spiraling. I had a panic attack in our closet, surrounded by his clothes that still smelled like him. My best friend Sarah arrived that afternoon after I called her with the news. She took over calling people, making arrangements, fielding the flood of messages coming in. She held me when I could not stand, made sure Lily ate something, and started a list of things that would need to be done. Funeral arrangements, death certificates, insurance, words that should never apply to a 37-year-old man. When I could finally form coherent thoughts, I called my parents. It was around 5 hunk in the evening. Sarah had taken Lily for a walk to give me space to make the call. I held Jason's sweater as the phone rang, desperate for the comfort of my mother's voice, for my father's steady presence. "Mom, I need you," I sobbed when she answered. "Jason died this morning. He had a heart attack. He is gone." There was a pause then. Background noise, music, laughter, clinking glasses. "Oh my goodness, Amanda, that is terrible," my mother finally said, her voice strangely distant. "We are at Grace's 30th birthday party right now. You know we have been planning this for months. Everyone is here. I need you to come, Mom, I pleaded. I do not know how to do this. I do not know how to plan a funeral. I do not know how to tell Lily her daddy is never coming back. Another pause, muffled conversation with someone else. Amanda, we cannot just leave in the middle of Grace's party. My father's voice now having taken the phone. It would ruin everything. Grace has friends who flew in from California for this. We will come first thing in the morning, I promise. Just hang tight. Call Jason's parents. They live closer anyway. I could not believe what I was hearing. My husband was dead and they were refusing to leave a birthday party. A birthday party. As if Grace would not have another one next year and the year after. As if my world had not just ended. I will never forget my father's parting words before he hung up. Try not to upset Lily too much. Children are resilient. She will bounce back. We will see you tomorrow. The line went dead, and with it, any illusion that my parents would be my support system through this nightmare. I screamed into Jason's sweater until my throat was raw, until Sarah came running back inside, until kind neighbor Barbara from across the street came over to help with Lily. That night, I slept in Lily's room, both of us clutching Jason's things, his Harvard Business School sweatshirt, the leather bracelet Lily had made him for Father's Day, the book he had been reading, a bookmark still holding his place halfway through, physical proof he had existed, that he had been here, that he had been ours. My parents arrived the following afternoon, nearly 24 hours after my desperate call. They brought Grace with them, all three dressed impeccably, as if heading to a business meeting rather than supporting their daughter and granddaughter through tragedy. My mother hugged me stiffly, patting my back twice before pulling away. I am so sorry we could not come sooner. But you understand it was Grace's milestone birthday, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. These things take months to plan. I was too numb to argue, too exhausted to point out that death does not check social calendars before striking. Jason's parents, Martha and Richard, had arrived from Rhode Island before dawn, bringing comfort food, offering genuine hugs, and immediately stepping in to help with Lily. The contrast between our two sets of parents was stark and painful. My mother immediately started rearranging things in my kitchen, commenting that this tragedy was no excuse for a messy home, especially with visitors coming by. My father asked about life insurance before he had even spoken to Lily. Grace complained about having to sleep on the pull-out couch and mentioned several times how her birthday celebration had been cut short. While everyone who has lost someone knows there is no real protocol for grief, my family seemed determined to make my loss about themselves. They criticized the funeral home I had selected with Sarah's help, insisted on changing the obituary I had written, and questioned the open casket viewing I knew Jason would have wanted. The funeral service 3 days later was beautiful in its heartbreak. Jason's colleagues from the investment firm came in a solemn group, sharing stories of his mentorship and integrity. His college roommates flew in from across the country. Our neighbors brought dish after dish of food. Jason's childhood friends spoke of his loyalty and humor. Through it all, I held Lily's hand. Both of us in black outfits Jason would have hated. He always said we looked best in colors. When it was my turn to speak, I somehow found strength I did not know I possessed. I told everyone about Jason's terrible dad jokes, his passion for teaching Lily about the stock market, using her allowance money, the way he still wrote me love notes, and hid them in my architecture blueprints. I spoke about his generosity, his patience, his unwavering belief in doing the right thing, even when it was difficult. My parents sat in the front row, my mother dabbing at dry eyes with the tissue, my father checking his watch more than once. They performed grief well for our friends and community, accepting condolences with appropriately somber expressions, but I overheard them during the reception afterward, standing with Grace in a corner, discussing Jason's financial situation. "Do you think he left everything properly arranged?" my father asked. "Amanda has never been good with money. Remember how she nearly maxed out her credit cards in college?" Grace nodded. "Plus, there is the house. It must be worth at least 7,000 Zilzenden in that neighborhood. And his job investment bankers make good money. There will be life insurance, too. We should help her manage it," my mother added. "For Lily's sake, of course." I walked away before they saw me physically ill at their calculation, barely hours after we had put Jason in the ground. That evening, we held a small family dinner at my house. As we picked at food none of us really wanted, Grace suddenly stood up and tapped her glass with a spoon. "I know this is not the best timing," she announced, a diamond ring suddenly visible on her left hand. "But Derek proposed last night and I said yes. We are thinking a December wedding. I will need your help planning it, Mom. The venue I want books up a year in advance, so we will need to put down deposits soon." My mother squealed with delight. My father beamed with pride, and just like that, the focus shifted completely from Jason's death to Grace's engagement. Jason's parents exchanged uncomfortable glances across the table while Lily silently pushed food around her plate. Later that evening, as everyone was settling in for the night, I received a call from Eleanor Jenkins, Jason's lawyer. She expressed her condolences and explained that Jason had updated his will just last year. She needed to schedule a reading of the will as soon as possible, as there were specific instructions from Jason that needed to be addressed promptly. When I mentioned this to my parents the next morning, their demeanor toward me shifted subtly. My mother offered to help with Lily more, suggesting I rest and take care of myself. My father proposed staying an extra few days to help sort through Jason's paperwork. Grace suddenly remembered fond stories of Jason she wanted to share with Lily. Their newfound attentiveness made my skin crawl. Jason's mother noticed it too, pulling me aside while everyone else was in the living room. "Amanda, sweetheart," she whispered, "you and Lily should come stay with us for a while. Get away from here from all this." She gestured vaguely toward my family. "Richard and I have plenty of room, and it might help Lily to be somewhere without so many reminders." I nearly accepted it on the spot, recognizing the genuine concern in her eyes. But Lily needed stability, her own bed, her familiar surroundings, and I needed to face whatever was coming next, not run from it. I did not know then how right Martha's instincts were, or how much worse things would get before they got better. A week after the funeral, I met with Eleanor Jenkins at her downtown office. Lily was at school. My first attempt at restoring some normalcy to her routine. Jason's parents had returned to Rhode Island, but called daily. My parents and Grace had finally gone back to their homes in Connecticut, giving me a brief respite from their particular brand of support. Eleanor was in her 60s with silver hair and kind eyes that had likely witnessed every type of family drama imaginable in her long legal career. She had been Jason's lawyer since he first started at the investment firm and had helped us draft our wills after Lily was born. "Amanda, Jason was very thorough in his estate planning," she began after we settled in her office with cups of tea. "He wanted to ensure you and Lily would be taken care of if anything happened to him." She outlined the details. Jason had left a substantial estate worth approximately $3.2 million. This included our home, his investment portfolio, retirement accounts, and a life insurance policy worth $1 million. Everything was left to me with a trust established for Lily's education and future needs that would be accessible to her at 25. I felt no joy at learning about our financial security, only a profound sadness that Jason had been so careful to protect us for a future without him. A future I had never imagined possible until now. I returned home with a folder of documents, my mind spinning with executor duties and account transfers. I had barely set my keys down when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my parents standing on the porch, Grace slightly behind them. They had not called to say they were coming back. I opened the door, genuinely confused by their presence. My mother pushed past me with a too bright smile. "We thought you might need some company after the will reading," she said, already making herself at home in my kitchen. "Your father and I have been talking, and we want to help you manage all this. It must be overwhelming." Grace set her designer handbag on my counter and added, "We can stay a few days if you need us to. I brought some bridal magazines so we can start looking at options together. It might take your mind off things." I stood there, keys still in hand, wondering when my family had ever offered to stay and help before. Even when Lily was born, my mother had visited for exactly 2 days before declaring that newborns were too disruptive to her sleep schedule. We ordered Chinese food for dinner, making awkward small talk about neighbors and relatives. My father kept steering the conversation toward Jason's work, the house, and what plans the investment firm had for clients of deceased partners. My mother asked pointed questions about whether I planned to go back to work or if I would live off the insurance money. After Lily went to bed, having endured an hour of Grace showing her flower girl dresses and explaining her important role in the upcoming wedding, my father finally revealed their true purpose. Amanda, he began, setting down his wine glass with the precision of someone about to make a business proposal. Your mother and I have been discussing your situation, and we think we have a solution that will benefit everyone. I waited, a knot forming in my stomach. We would like you to consider giving us 50% of Jason's estate, he continued. After all, we raised you, put you through college, helped with the down payment on your first apartment. In many ways, we invested in the life you and Jason built. I stared at him, certain I had misheard. My mother nodded encouragingly. It makes perfect sense, she added. You and Lily do not need all that money. You will remarry eventually, and your new husband can help support you. Meanwhile, we are approaching retirement, and Grace needs help with her wedding and a down payment on a house with Derek. Grace leaned forward, her engagement ring catching the light. Derek and I found the perfect venue, but the deposit is $3,000, and I have always dreamed of a designer dress. Plus, Mom and Dad deserve to enjoy their retirement years after everything they have done for us. I felt as though I had stepped into an alternate reality. My husband was barely cold in his grave, and my family was asking for his money. Money meant to secure his daughter's future. You cannot be serious, I finally managed to say. But they were dead serious. For the next hour, they outlined all the ways they deserved a portion of Jason's estate. How they had always supported me. How family helps family. How Lily was just a child and would not know the difference between $1 million or $3 million when she got older. When I refused, my father's tactics turned uglier. He brought up times they had loaned me money and college gifts they had given over the years, family obligations, and loyalty. My mother suggested that Jason would have wanted to help the family, that I was being selfish, just like when I was a child, and would not share my toys. The argument grew heated. I reminded them they had not even come when Jason died, that they had always favored Grace, that Jason had worked incredibly hard to provide for his wife and daughter. Grace accused me of jealousy over her engagement and suggested therapy for my grief, which was clearly making me irrational. What none of them realized was that Lily had woken up and was sitting at the top of the stairs listening to every word. I only discovered this later when she asked me why Grandma and Grandpa wanted Daddy's money more than they wanted to help us feel better. My father eventually stood up, towering over me as he had when I was a child and had disappointed him. You have 24 hours to reconsider, Amanda. This is about family loyalty. If you refuse to help us, do not expect us to be there for you in the future. They left with promises to return the next day, expecting me to come to my senses overnight. As I locked the door behind them, I leaned against it and slid to the floor. Overcome with a mixture of rage, disbelief, and a strange sense of clarity, Jason had been right all along about my family, and I had been too desperate for their approval to see it. After my family left, I broke down completely. The armor I had maintained for Lily's sake finally shattered. I sobbed on the kitchen floor. Great heaving cries that felt ripped from the deepest part of me. The betrayal of my family, the crushing loneliness of widowhood, the terror of raising Lily alone, all of it poured out in a flood I could no longer contain. I did not hear Lily come downstairs until I felt her small arms wrap around my shoulders. Her strawberry-scented shampoo, the one Jason always used when he gave her baths, filled my senses. It is okay, Mommy, she whispered, patting my hair the way I did when she was upset. Daddy always said that sometimes you have to cry to make room for being brave again. Her words, so clearly echoing Jason's wisdom, both broke and mended something in me. I held her tightly. This tiny person who is half him, half me, all wisdom beyond her years. I am sorry you heard all that, I told her when I could speak again. Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Grace, they are just confused right now. Lily pulled back and looked at me with Jason's serious blue eyes. They are not confused, Mommy. They are being greedy. Daddy said being greedy means wanting things that belong to others more than you want people to be happy. The next morning, Lily disappeared into her room with her art supplies, saying she was working on a special project. I let her have that space while I called Eleanor to ask about my parents' claims. Amanda, they have absolutely no legal right to Jason's estate, Eleanor assured me. Jason was very clear about his wishes. Everything goes to you and Lily. Your parents cannot challenge that successfully, regardless of what they might threaten. Her confirmation information gave me the strength I needed to prepare for their return. I spent the day putting Jason's important documents in the safe, changing passwords on our accounts, and taking photos of valuables just in case. I did not think my parents would steal from me, but then again, I never thought they would demand half of my dead husband's estate either. They returned the following afternoon, exactly 24 hours later, as promised. This time, Grace brought her fiancé, Derek, a quiet man who worked in finance and who looked increasingly uncomfortable as the visit progressed. My father had brought a draft agreement his lawyer friend had written up already, assuming my compliance. "Have you come to your senses?" my father asked as soon as they were seated in my living room. His tone was that of a parent addressing a stubborn child, not a man speaking to his grieving daughter. "I have spoken with Jason's lawyer," I replied calmly. "There is nothing to discuss. The estate belongs to Lily and me, as Jason intended." My mother sighed dramatically. "Amanda, always so difficult. This is not just about the money. This is about family supporting each other. Grace needs help with her wedding, and your father and I are not getting any younger." Grace jumped in, describing the Vera Wang dress she had her eye on the honeymoon in Bali. She and Derek were planning how a proper start to their marriage required financial stability. Derek shifted uncomfortably beside her, but said nothing. "You have a good job, Grace," I pointed out. "And Derek works in finance. You both make six-figure salaries." "But we have student loans," she countered, "and the housing market is so expensive. It is not fair that you get all this money just because your husband died." Her words hung in the air, their cruelty stunning even Derek, who visibly flinched. My father leaned forward, changing tactics. "We have always been there for you, Amanda. When you struggled in college, when you needed help with Lily, family means reciprocity. Your mother and I sacrificed so much for you girls." "What sacrifices exactly?" I asked, a lifetime of suppressed questions finally finding voice. "You missed my college graduation because Grace had a dance recital. You forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. When I called to tell you Jason had died, you refused to leave Grace's birthday party." My mother bristled. "That is ancient history, Amanda. You always were one to hold grudges. We are talking about being practical." The argument continued to escalate, voices rising, old wounds reopening. Grace brought up childhood slights twisted to make her the victim. My parents toggled between guilt trips and veiled threats about family loyalty. None of us noticed Lily standing in the doorway until she stepped fully into the room, holding a large manila envelope to her chest. She wore the special dress had bought for her last birthday, her hair neatly brushed, her expression solemn beyond her 8 years. The room fell silent as she walked directly to my parents, her posture straight and dignified in a way that painfully echoed her father. "Grandma, Grandpa," she said clearly, "this is for you." She held out the envelope. "This is why you came here, right?" My father took the envelope, confusion mixing with anticipation on his face. Perhaps he thought I had reconsidered that the envelope contained a check or transfer papers. Grace leaned forward eagerly, already mentally spending money that was not hers. When my father opened the envelope, he pulled out not financial documents, but a crayon drawing and a handwritten letter. The drawing showed a stick figure, family, Lily, Jason, and me holding hands with sunshine above us. In a separate corner, smaller figures labeled Grandma, Grandpa, and Aunt Grace stood apart, surrounded by dollar signs. As my father began to read the letter, his hand started to shake visibly. My mother peered over his shoulder, her face draining of color. "Dear Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Grace," Lily had written in her careful third-grade penmanship. "My daddy died 8 days ago. He was the best daddy in the world. He taught me that family means loving each other and being there when someone is sad. He said, 'Money is just paper, but time together is the real treasure.' When Daddy died, you did not come right away because Aunt Grace's birthday party was more important. That made Mommy cry more. Now you want Daddy's money instead of helping us miss him together. Daddy told me once that you can tell what people really care about by watching what they do, not listening to what they say. I see what you care about now. I do not want you to have Daddy's money. He worked hard for me and Mommy, but I will share my time with you if you want to be real family again." Love, Lily. P.S. Daddy is watching from heaven, and I think he is disappointed. The silence in the room was absolute. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's face flushed deep red, then pale. Grace stared at the floor. Derek had moved several inches away from her on the couch, studying Lily with newfound respect. Lily stood there waiting for a response, her small shoulders squared with a courage I envied. When none came, she added in a clear voice, "Daddy always said we should use our words to tell the truth, even when it is hard." Something broke open in me, then something that had been bound by years of seeking approval, of making excuses, of accepting less than I deserved, from the people who should have loved me most. I stood and moved beside my daughter, placing my hands on her shoulders. "I think you should leave now," I said to my parents and Grace, my voice steady and sure, in a way it had never been before. Jason left this money to secure his daughter's future and to make sure I could provide for her without him. It is not a community resource for the family to divide. It is his final act of love and protection for us. "But," my mother began, her voice quavering. I held up my hand. "No, there is nothing more to discuss. You have shown me exactly who you are and what matters to you. I will not subject Lily to that anymore. Please leave my house and do not come back until you are ready to be the family Lily described in her letter. The kind that shows up when it matters, not just when there is something to gain." My father stood abruptly, his face a mask of anger and embarrassment. "You will regret this, Amanda. Family is all you have now." "No," I replied. "Family is people who love and support each other unconditionally. By that definition, you stopped being family a long time ago. I was just too afraid of being alone to admit it." They left in a flurry of slammed doors and screeching tires. Grace crying theatrical tears. My parents promising I would hear from their lawyer. Derek lingered just long enough to whisper, "I'm sorry," as he passed his eyes communicating a deeper understanding than his words. When they were gone, Lily looked up at me, suddenly seeming very young again. "Was I bad, Mommy?" I knelt down to her level, cupping her face in my hands. "No, sweetheart. You were brave and honest, just like your daddy taught you to be. I am so proud of you." She nodded solemnly. "Do you think they will learn to be real family again?" I did not have the heart to tell her what I truly believed, that some people are incapable of change, that some relationships are too broken to repair. Instead, I said, "I do not know, honey. But what I do know is that you and I are a family, a real one. And we have Grandma Martha and Grandpa Richard and Aunt Sarah and all the people who have been bringing us food and checking on us. Family is not always who you are born to. Sometimes it is who you choose." That night, we slept in my bed together. Lily curled against me, her breathing steady and trusting. I felt simultaneously hollowed out and filled up, as if I had lost one family but discovered the true meaning of another, all in the same day. The days following the confrontation brought a strange mixture of relief and guilt. Relief that I had finally stood up to my family's manipulation. Guilt that I had deprived Lily of relationships with her grandparents and aunt. Complicated as those relationships might be, the guilt was irrational. I knew that intellectually, but grief is rarely rational. I had my first major panic attack 3 days after they left. I was sorting through Jason's clothes, deciding what to donate and what to keep, when I found the tie Lily had given him for Father's Day last year. Navy blue with tiny yellow ducks. It was hideous and perfect, and Jason had worn it proudly to work the next day, sending me photos of his colleagues' reactions. Holding that tie, I suddenly could not breathe, could not stand, could not process that he would never wear it again. Sarah found me curled on the closet floor, hyperventilating among his suits. She helped me up, guided me through breathing exercises, and then gently suggested therapy for both Lily and me. She had researched grief counselors specializing in children and young widows, already compiled a list of names and numbers. This was love, I realized, not the conditional approval my parents offered, but this practical, thoughtful support that anticipated needs before I could even articulate them. Jason's parents called daily, their concern genuine and undemanding. They invited us for weekend visits, but understood when I said Lily needed routine right now. They sent care packages with homemade cookies, books on grief, appropriate for Lily's age, and once a beautiful wind chime for our backyard patio where Jason used to grill. In these small ways, I began to see the outlines of our support system, the family we had beyond blood relations. Our neighbor Barbara, who still brought dinner every Monday. Jason's colleague, Michael, who came over to mow the lawn and fix the leaky faucet Jason had been meaning to repair. Lily's teacher, Ms. Thompson, who sent home extra art supplies, knowing that creating helped Lily process her feelings. A month after the confrontation, Grace called. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up on the final ring. Amanda. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. I wanted to say I am sorry for everything at your house and before that too. I remained silent, not ready to offer absolution. Derek and I have been talking, she continued, filling the silence. He was really upset about how we all treated you. He said, if that is how my family behaves, he is not sure about the wedding. It made me think about things differently. Still, I said nothing. Mom and Dad are still angry, she admitted. They are talking about contesting the will, but their lawyer told them they have no grounds. I do not think they will actually do anything. They are just saving face. What do you want, Grace? I finally asked, too tired for games. I think I want to be a better sister, she said after a pause. And a better aunt to Lily. Not right away. I understand you need space, but maybe someday. I set a clear boundary. I would consider rebuilding a relationship with her separately from our parents, but it would take time and effort on her part. She would need to respect Lily's feelings and my decisions. No more competition. No more enabling our parents' favoritism. To my surprise, she agreed to my terms. It was the first adult conversation we had ever had. My parents attempted reconciliation in their own way, sending expensive gifts to Lily and leaving voicemails about family obligations. I returned the gifts with a note explaining that we needed genuine apologies and changed behavior, not bribes. The voicemails went unanswered. Jason's childhood friend, Michael, became an unexpected source of support during this time. As a partner at a different law firm than Eleanor's, he offered to review any legal communications from my parents, though none materialized beyond blustering threats. He also helped me understand the financial aspects of my new situation, explaining investment strategies and tax implications in simple terms. 6 weeks after Jason's death, I found a locked drawer in his desk containing a journal and a stack of sealed envelopes. The journal detailed his thoughts about our life together, his hopes for Lily's future, and heartbreakingly, his suspicions about his health in those final weeks. The envelopes were labeled for Lily's future milestones. Chantra's 16th birthday, high school graduation, college graduation, wedding day, first child. He had written letters for her to open at each occasion, sharing the wisdom and love he would not be there to give in person. I sobbed for hours after finding them both devastated by this tangible reminder of all Lily would miss, and deeply grateful for Jason's foresight, his determination to parent her even in absence. Memorial Day was our first major holiday without Jason. Normally, we would have hosted a barbecue in our backyard, Jason manning the grill while entertaining guests with stories. Instead, Lily and I accepted an invitation from Sarah and her husband to join their family gathering. We brought Jason's famous potato salad made from his mother's recipe. When someone raised a toast to absent friends, I felt Lily's small hand slip into mine beneath the table. In June, I returned to work part-time at my architectural firm. My colleagues had been incredibly understanding, keeping my projects on hold and redistributing only what was absolutely necessary. Being back at my drafting table brought a different kind of healing, a reminder that I still had value and purpose beyond my grief. Lily's school year ended with a project where each student created a memory book about someone important in their life. She chose to make hers about Jason, filling it with photos and stories and things he had taught her. Her teacher, Ms. Thompson, called me personally to let me know how brave she thought Lily had been to share it with the class and how it had helped the other children understand her loss. One evening, while organizing Jason's home office, I discovered a folded paper titled Bucket List. It contained 25 experiences he had